If you could drop into Berlin in 1939, you'd smell fresh pretzels, new paint, and, most of all, certainty. Trains run on time, jobs are back, and the radio says the future is bright. Always a good sign when the radio promises things, right? This is World War II from the German perspective, the view from the streets, kitchens, barracks, and eventually the bunkers. Not an endorsement, just a rare, uncomfortable close-up. Many Germans felt they were standing up after a decade on the floor. Pride returns, paychecks return. So does the idea that history owes them a do-over. There's cheering, there's marching, and there's a quiet little voice some ignore saying, "Are we sure this ends well?" Spoiler, winter in Russia is not a vibe. We'll ride the early lightning, Poland, France, the skies over Britain, when Blitzkrieg sounds like destiny with good PR. Then eastward to the steppe, where fuel runs thin, boots freeze solid, and certainty cracks. Back home, ration cards multiply, sirens wail, and the gap between newsreel glory and nightly reality becomes a canyon. Along the way, we'll listen to diaries and letters, factory chatter and frontline whispers, the complexity, the complicity, the fear, the denial. Because history isn't just what leaders decide, it's what millions accept, question, or refuse to see. This is the story of how a promise to make Germany strong again turned into rubble, reckoning, and a lesson written in ash. Through German eyes, in pure color, so we can't pretend it was all black and white. Before we talk about tanks and Hitler speeches, we've got to rewind to a Germany that's flat broke, humiliated, and frankly, not in the mood for jazz. After World War I, the Treaty of Versailles hits like a sledgehammer. Reparations, territory loss, disarmament, you name it. Germany's economy collapses so hard that a loaf of bread costs more than a house. People actually carried money in wheelbarrows just to buy lunch. Talk about inflation goals gone wrong. Pride? Gone. Faith in politicians? Gone. But resentment? Oh, plenty of that. Millions of veterans wander home. Medals on their chest, but no jobs waiting. The world tells them they're the bad guys, but they're just trying to feed their families. Out of this frustration rises a generation that's angry, scared, and desperate for someone, anyone, to promise a way out. Enter a short Austrian with a loud voice and too much confidence, Adolf Hitler. He taps into that national pain like a salesman who knows his audience. Germany can be great again. We've just been stabbed in the back. People listen. The anger feels justified. The hope feels intoxicating. And just like that, the stage is set. Germany isn't just rebuilding its cities, it's rebuilding its ego. And that, as history will show, can be the most dangerous reconstruction project of all. By the early 1930s, Germany's hanging by a thread. Unemployment's sky high, and democracy looks about as stable as a paper umbrella in a hurricane. Then comes Hitler, stepping up like he's auditioning for the role of national savior. With fiery speeches, dramatic pauses, and a mustache that'll one day define evil itself, he promises to restore pride, rebuild the army, and, his favorite word, purify Germany. Subtlety was not his thing. But Hitler doesn't rise alone. He's got Joseph Goebbels, the spin doctor of all spin doctors. If propaganda were an Olympic sport, Goebbels would bring home the gold. Through films, posters, and that ever-present radio, he paints Hitler as a hero chosen by destiny. To question him feels unpatriotic. To oppose him feels suicidal. The Nazi Party sweeps through elections, and by 1933, democracy's dead, buried under chants of Ein Volk, Ein Reich, Ein Führer. The opposition silenced. Jews, intellectuals, and political enemies pushed out or locked up. Fear becomes the new national anthem. And yet, for millions, it feels like progress. The economy's recovering, factories are humming, and Germany's swaggering again. What most don't realize is they've traded freedom for illusion. And that illusion is about to march straight into history's darkest chapter. September 1st, 1939. The German army crosses into Poland. The world holds its breath, and then chaos explodes. But for the Germans, it feels like triumph. Blitzkrieg, they call it, lightning war, and for once, the name isn't just propaganda. Tanks move fast, planes scream overhead, and within weeks, Poland's map gets redrawn. Europe watches in disbelief. Germany watches in pride. At home, people are glued to their radios, hearing victory after victory. The shame of World War I? Erased. The weak Germany of the past? Gone. Hitler's popularity skyrockets. The message is simple. Germany is winning again. And who doesn't love a good comeback story? At least until it turns into a horror movie. Next stop, France. The Maginot Line, supposedly impenetrable, is outflanked in a matter of weeks. German troops march through Paris, the Eiffel Tower looming overhead. For the ordinary soldier, it's surreal. Some are just farm boys seeing the world for the first time. For Hitler, it's vindication. The world underestimated him. Now he feels unstoppable. Across Germany, bells ring, flags wave, and the economy hums. But victory brings arrogance. Every triumph whispers a dangerous lie. Maybe this war can be won easily. What they don't know yet is that wars aren't won by speed alone. And somewhere across the channel, a certain island nation is preparing to prove that. The Blitz is coming. And for the first time, Germany will learn what it feels like to fight an enemy that refuses to break. Summer 1940. France has fallen. Hitler looks across the English Channel and thinks, one more push and the war's over. Easy, right? Except he's about to meet Britain. Small, stubborn, and very much not in the mood to surrender. From the German cockpit view, the Battle of Britain feels like a formality. The Luftwaffe is larger, faster, and supposedly better trained. All they have to do is crush the Royal Air Force and clear the way for invasion. Except the British pilots, many barely out of their teens, fight like cornered wolves. They're fast, fearless, and have home advantage. Also, radar, that sneaky little British invention that spots them coming every time. Losses mount. For the first time, Germans tune into radio reports that don't sound like victory. Unfavorable weather, they say. Temporary setbacks. But the truth is clear. Britain's not falling. So the Führer pivots. If he can't beat Britain in the skies, maybe he'll crush them economically, or find a new enemy entirely. His eyes turn east, toward the vast, frozen lands of the Soviet Union. And with that single decision, Germany's fate quietly seals itself. Because if you thought Britain was tough, wait till you meet Russia in winter. To many Germans, this isn't just another war. It's a crusade against Bolshevism. The propaganda machine calls it destiny. Even factory workers in Berlin whisper, this will finally end it all. But the East is vast, endless. It's a land that swallows armies whole. At first, the victories are blinding. Cities fall like dominoes. Soviet troops retreat in chaos, and German newspapers scream unstoppable. But the deeper they go, the thinner the supplies stretch, and the colder the nights grow. Then winter hits. Not a polite European winter, the kind that freezes fuel, shatters metal, and turns men into statues. The same soldiers who once marched in triumph now fight frostbite harder than the enemy. Tanks won't start, horses die standing, and the Red Army doesn't break, it endures. Back home, the radio still says victory is near, but the truth in the trenches is brutal. They are outnumbered, outsupplied, and out of luck. Even the officers begin to whisper, "This isn't another France, this is something else entirely." The Eastern Front becomes a graveyard for half of the German army. The myth of invincibility dies in the snow of Russia, and with it, the promise of a quick and glorious war. While the Eastern Front freezes over, life back home in Germany carries on, at least on the surface. The radio still plays triumphant marches, newsreels still show smiling soldiers, and Goebbels' propaganda machine runs like clockwork. If there's one thing the Nazis mastered, it's storytelling, and not the good kind. Even as casualties climb, the headlines stay cheerful. Victory near Moscow, final push towards Stalingrad. Germans gather in cinemas to watch carefully edited footage, victory parades spliced together with patriotic speeches. It's like watching a war through Instagram filters, only the highlights, never the horror. But behind closed doors, the illusion cracks. Cities are bombed nightly, ration cards grow thinner, and the once proud factories now churn out weapons faster than bread. Mothers read letters from the front that sound more like farewells than updates. Still, most cling to hope. The Führer knows what he's doing, they say, because admitting otherwise means facing a terrifying truth. Everything they believed in might be collapsing. Propaganda becomes oxygen. It keeps morale alive just long enough to prevent panic. But no amount of slogans or speeches can hide what's coming next. A darkness even the most loyal followers can't ignore. While soldiers froze on the front, another war, colder, quieter, and far more monstrous, was unfolding behind the lines. The Nazi leadership wasn't just fighting armies, they were erasing people. Jews, Romani, the disabled, political prisoners, all labeled undesirable. And in the name of a twisted ideology, the machinery of murder began to turn. Most Germans didn't see the camps, but they heard whispers. They saw smoke from new factories. They noticed the empty homes, the closed shops, the vanished neighbors. Some looked away out of fear, others out of willful denial. After all, believing the unthinkable would mean admitting that the nation they loved had become something horrifying. Propaganda called it resettlement. Newspapers buried it under headlines of battlefield glory. But for those who served in occupied territories, the soldiers who guarded trains or saw the ghettos, it became impossible to ignore. Some wrote letters home saying, "If this is victory, I don't want it." The Holocaust wasn't a secret, it was a silence millions helped maintain, whether through fear, obedience, or convenience. And by the time that silence finally broke, the world would stare into the abyss and wonder how so many could look away for so long. By 1943, the tide of war has turned, and Germany's on the receiving end. The same cities that once hosted grand parades are now firestorms. Hamburg, Cologne, Dresden, names once proud, now synonymous with destruction. Allied bombers fill the skies nightly, and for civilians below, the world becomes an endless cycle of sirens, shelters, and shattered glass. At first, the propaganda insists these bombings are minor setbacks. But when entire neighborhoods disappear overnight, denial becomes impossible. The war that Germany unleashed on the world has come home, louder, brighter, and mercilessly fair. Then, June 6, 1944, D-Day. The Allies land in Normandy, and suddenly Hitler's empire has enemies on both sides. The Eastern Front bleeds endlessly. The Western Front collapses. Soldiers fight bravely, but morale crumbles. Letters home stop promising victory. They start praying for survival. Inside Germany, whispers grow louder. Maybe the Führer's lost touch. Maybe this is the end. But saying it aloud is still treason. So they nod along, salute, and keep digging trenches. The dream of a 1,000-year Reich is dying at record speed. The war that began with precision and confidence now limps toward chaos. And deep beneath Berlin, in a reinforced bunker, the man who promised greatness is watching his empire collapse, one bomb at a time. Spring 1945. Once the proud heart of the Third Reich, Berlin now looks like the inside of a volcano. Soviet artillery pounds the city day and night, turning every block into a battlefield. Civilians huddle in basements, soldiers fight in the streets, and the radio still insists victory is certain. Even now, the propaganda machine won't admit the obvious. Germany has lost. The army that once conquered Europe is now a desperate collection of the too young, the too old, and the too tired. Ammunition's running low, food's gone, but the orders are clear: fight to the last man. The Soviets close in from the east, the Allies from the west, and every step forward costs hundreds of lives. Below ground, Hitler rants and rewrites battle plans that no longer exist. His generals nod, knowing the truth, but too afraid to say it. The 1,000-year Reich hasn't even lasted 12. On April 30th, 1945, as the Soviets breach the city, Hitler takes his own life. His dream dies with him, loudly, pointlessly, and surrounded by ash. When the guns finally stop, Berlin is barely standing. Streets are lined with the dead, and the survivors wander like ghosts. For the German people, the war that began in pride ends in ruin. No speeches, no fanfare, just silence, smoke, and the haunting question echoing in every heart: how did it come to this? The war ends, but peace doesn't feel like victory. It feels like exhaustion. Germany lies in pieces, cities flattened, families scattered, and a generation burdened by both guilt and grief. For those who survived, the question isn't how to rebuild, but how to live with what they've seen and what they've done. The Allies divide the country into zones: American, British, French, Soviet. What's left of one Germany becomes two, and the seeds of the Cold War are quietly planted in the rubble. Meanwhile, the Nuremberg trials begin, where former Nazi officials sit under bright lights and hear their crimes read aloud for the world to judge. For ordinary people, shame becomes a second skin. Some claim ignorance, others admit nothing, but many begin to ask the painful questions. How did this happen? How did we let it? The answers come slowly, whispered between generations. Out of the ruins, a new Germany begins to emerge, one determined never to repeat the mistakes of its past. The road to redemption is long, but it begins with remembrance. And that may be history's final mercy. Not that we forget, but that we learn. Because forgetting is what started it all in the first place. From triumph to tragedy, from blind faith to bitter truth, this was World War II through German eyes. not to excuse, but to understand. Because behind every uniform was a person, behind every victory a cost, and behind every silence a choice. Over 70 million lives were lost before the guns finally went quiet. The ruins left behind weren't just cities. They were warnings, written in stone and memory. History isn't only about who won, it's about who learned. So if this story moved you, subscribe to Echoes of the Unwritten, where forgotten voices speak again and the past reminds us what it truly means to be human.